Hello guys, I'm going to show you how to work with the data. Now, I already selected some fields that I can change if I want. I'm not going to change them. I selected some countries. For this exercise, I'm working with all of the countries that start with A and B, and some years which were the years available. Now, what I do is I select standard for the download, get results, and sources, which I have here and here. Now what I do is I usually start with the sources because it's easier. The sources are going to be like this. So what I do is I select the first column, the other columns are empty. And these sources are, the type of file is called the comma separated value. When you look at the downloads, what you're going to see is that the type of file is here. I'm going to show you. CSV, comma separated values. It means that it's not separated by columns, it's separated by commas. So what you do is you select the data that you want to transform, first column, you go to data and you put text into columns and you say, yes, they are limited. Limited how? Limited with a comma. Remember the name? Comma separated value. They're limited with a comma. So you do that, voila. Now you have it in what's the name of this? Columns. Okay, good. So what I do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it in my matrix. I have been downloading data and I have another Excel file here open, which is my matrix. Now I have two tabs, one tab for results, one tab for sources. I'm going to paste it here in the sources and I'm going to be working with that and I'll show you how. I already have some market size sources that I have already worked with. Good. I did that with the sources. So I closed that Excel file. I don't save anything. I already pasted it somewhere else. Now I go to the next download, which is results. I want to get the results here. So now when you have a file like this, it's because it's comma separated values. It's not separated by commas. It's not separated by columns. So what you do is something similar, but before doing that, when you see this, for example, you see 7.000, it means that they're using the period or the dot to indicate a decimal. If you remember how to work in Excel, you're going to remember that Excel does not recognize the point as a decimal, it recognizes the comma as a decimal. So we're going to change that. How? I'm going to go here, I'm going to replace, first of all of the commas, which the system is using to separate the columns, and I'm going to replace them with something else. In this case, I am going to use an ampersand. Why? Because I replace everything with an ampersand. Now I have ampersand separated values, and now I still have periods for what should be commas. So I do that. I change the periods for commas. Good. And I replace everything. Now that I do this, I am going to do the same step as before. I'm going to go to data, text into columns. They are limited. Yes. How? Not with a comma, because I changed the comma for something else. What did I change it for? Ampersands. Beautiful ampersands. Voila. That's it. Now I have my data. Now, I have problems with this data. Some of the data that I chose, because I was looking for country risk, some of that data that I chose here is not quantitative. So if it is not quantitative, it's not good for me, because I am working with a matrix that is based on quantitative data. So I can eliminate this one right away. But the other one is good. But what does that data mean? I'm going to show you in a minute. But for now, you know how to turn this comma separated values into an Excel file. And I'm going to stop the video there for you to continue then in the next video working with the data. Hello, this is the second video. Now, what I have here is a list of countries and a list of variables per year, 2006, 7, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and so on. I'm going to eliminate some of this data. 2016, probably not reliable. Nonetheless, I'm going to do that in the next, when I paste this, where I want to take it. Now, I have already been working on a matrix, and I have already seen some data. Which data? The one that I have here in blue. And here in my results, I'm going to paste this data as well. Bear in mind that I am pasting the countries as well. Okay, I'm going to paste it here. Now, if you see this, you're going to notice a couple of things. If you pay attention, you're going to see that these countries are not ordered alphabetically. So what I have to do now is I have to select all of the data that I just took, and I'm going to filter it. And by filtering, now I am going to organize it alphabetically. Now that it's organized alphabetically, I have to see that it corresponds. And it does correspond, so I'm going to keep that like that. Good. Now that I have that, you see that the country ID corresponds with the country ID and so on. Good. So we have what we needed. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to see this data and work with it, and I'm going to select one of these variables. Now what I have here, you see, is a number. 11,820 for the year 2006. So 11,820 for the year 2006. What is that? Direct investments war risk 11,821. Direct investments risk of expropriation 11,822. Direct investment transfer risk. What is that coming from? This website. So I'm going to actually look at that website because I want to know what that data means, and I'm going to show you in a minute. Here I'm going to open my browser. I'm going to paste that URL, and I'm going to find this. Now, this is a website that is familiar to you because we already saw it in class. I'm going to select any particular country, Colombia, and what I see here is that number 1 is the best possible value. Number 7 is the worst possible value. So this is an inverted scale. In the other scales, for example, for market size, the bigger, the better. Now, in this case, the bigger, the worse. If I have a 7, that's a very bad country to do business in. If I have a 1, that's a very good country to do business in. So how do I do that? Well, first, I have to do what I usually do with this, which is I have to convert these indexes. And then I have to do another step, which is to invert the scale. So first, I like to do this like this because it's always the same. See, I have a lot of observations. That's why you are working in groups, because you need to work with tons of data. Okay, so what I'm doing is I am inserting another column next, right to the column that I am going to convert into an index number. What is an index number? An index number, remember the methodology from Cavusgil that I was mentioning about? Well, we're going to apply that particular formula here in just a minute. Just let me finish this, because then I'm going to copy paste this and it's going to be very quickly. You're going to see that once you have the data, once you have decided and look for the data that is relevant for your particular product or service, the exercise is pretty straightforward. So what is the formula? The formula I have here, this is the formula. Now, this formula means that I have to find this number, which is the average score of country J on the dimension I, this one, which is the scaled final value of country J for the dimension I. This is the result that I'm going to create. This is the minimum value of the dimension I, and this is the range. The range is the minimum, the maximum minus the minimum. So I have to work with the minimum and the maximum. That's what I'm going to do here. I already calculated them here, so I'm just going to copy. No, I'm not going to copy it. I'm going to show you. I will write here minimum. I write here maximum, and I'm going to use the formulas that Excel has for looking for the minimum and the maximum, which are like this. Minimum. Yes, that one. Minimum of what? Of this list. Boom. Maximum. Exactly the same. I make the formula. I look for the formula is maximum value of what? Maximum value of this list. I have my numbers. Now that I have my numbers with this 2011, I don't need to work with this. I'm sorry. I need to do this not for the country, I need to do this for the value. So what I do this now is I am going to change this. No, I don't want you here. I want you here. And you, where do I want you? Here. Yes. So the maximum value is 1. The minimum value is 1. The maximum value is 6. There's no country with 7 in this scale. What do I do next? I step on this country. And I have to paste there first the value that I'm going to convert. So equal 3 parentheses, the value that I am going to convert, which is this one, of course, right? And then I have to subtract from that the minimum value of the list. I subtract from that the minimum value of the list, which is here, and I'm going to fix it with F4. I close that because I already have this part of the formula. Now I need this division and I need the range. How do I do that? Then I am going to divide, open, and calculate the range. What is the range? The range is the maximum, and I fix that with F4 minus the minimum, which is this one, and I fix that with H4, excuse me. This one, F4. There you go. I close this and I close this again, and what I have is then this part of the formula. Now I have to multiply by 99 and then add a 1. I multiply star 99, I close that, and I add plus 1. Done. Now what I do is I drop that, and if I did it correctly, the maximum value is 100 and the minimum value is 1. Whatever was empty, the system is going to take a 0 and appear as negative. Usually what I do is that then I'm going to study which countries are more often blank, and then I take those countries out because they change negatively the variable. Now what I do is I repeat my exercise, and I repeat my exercise, and I repeat my exercise. See, what I do is just copy it. I'm going to see in a minute if it works correctly. That's a lot of Control V. Right? Good. And what I do now is I'm going to go back and I'm going to copy the formula. Now, the formula that I'm going to copy is going to be slightly different. Remember that I fixed these numbers? So when I copy it here, I have to change the fixed numbers. So I press F2, and now instead of DO, this column that I selected is DQ. So I replace the O for a Q. Good. I'm going to drop it down, and now I have my data. Now what I am going to be working with is this new data that I am producing here. Okay. I am pasting for each year, then good. And I'm going to change this. I'm going to start with this. This is FC, right? So probably this is the longest part, which is changing this. But I am at the very same time changing a lot of data. So it's going to be good. You can do it easier if you, for example, don't fix it before. Hello, this is part 3 of the video. Now I have a lot of data. I have my original data, and I have my index numbers that I just calculated with the formula that we have seen before. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to eliminate this. We don't need this. I'm going to give this color. I need color to understand this data. So I am working with the country matrix here with this, which I am going to call here somewhere. I don't know. This is country risk. So I'm going to use the same colors here. I'm going to apply those colors. That's what a weird pink. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to work with those colors. Now, what I do is I am going to give it was this color. I'm going to give it everything the light color. Now, what I changed into an index, now I'm hitting control here, and I am selecting each one of these columns. I'm going to give that a new color so that I can remember which is an index and what is original data. And that way I am also, if I am a student, I am also helping my teacher understand what I did. Okay, find ways to convey to me or to convey to the recipient of your matrix what you did. Find graphical ways to make it easy to understand and read. Numbers are great, but numbers that are not well organized, that are not distinctly and clearly defined, they're just a mess. I don't like that. Nobody likes that. Wow. So I'm gonna give it a slightly darker shade of color. See? Good. Now, as you see, I am working with different data. I am working with 11.8.20. I am working with 11.8.21. And I am working with 11.8.22. So I'm going to separate that as distinct variables where I have that here, sources. So I go back here. I didn't use this one. I'm going to eliminate it. I didn't use this one. I'm going to eliminate it. I'm working with these three. So 20, 21, and 22. Direct investment, war risks. So I'm going to start with that one. I'm going to copy this text here, and I'm going to place it here. I'm going to look for the start of the data. Remember which one we're talking about? 11.8.20. 11.8.20, 20, 20, 20, 20 is this up until here. So here I'm going to insert another column. No, I'm sorry. Not here, but here. I'm going to insert another column. What is the name that I'm going to give to this column? This. Direct investment, war risk. That's the variable. Now I'm going to put this in bold here. And I'm going to find an average. How do I find this average? Very easily. I go here, and it's the average of what? It's the average of this, yes, it's the average of this result, and no, and this result. I don't like this. I like it here. Sorry. This result, that result, and DP3, DR3, this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. Let me see if I did it correctly. No, I didn't. Sorry. I'm going to try again. Cancel this. So this average, yes, the average of what? Of this, and this. No, oh, because I'm not separating with the way it should be, which is this. Sorry. Anyway, you do the average, right? You get the idea. And now that average, I am going to place, this is not something that I need. That average, I am going to give that a darker color. That color that I'm going to use is this one, slightly darker color, right? Good. And I'm going to do that for the other variable that I have, which is 11.8.21, direct investment, risk of expropriation, and government action. That's the one that ends in 21. So I'm going to look for 21 here, which is one, this one, this one, this one, this one, up until here. So here I have to put another column. The name of that is this. I'm going to put that in bold. Good. This that I'm going to put in bold as well, so that I remember that is one variable, right? And this, I'm going to take this, I'm going to copy it, place it here, see if it works. F2, beautiful, except for this one. I have to eliminate that from this formula. F2. So that's the first one. Easy. EC3 is not, I need that. Yes, so work with this. Boom, got it. Paste it here. Now I have my second variable that I'm working with, direct investments. And then I have this one. I go back. I do exactly the same. I look at it here. So what I do is I insert here a column. I'm going to give it a name. I am going to take this. I'm going to paste it here because it's the average that I want to take and make sure that I have what I need. This one is a little where it was not supposed to be. It should be here. I do it. Good. I have what I needed. But still, I have not made the inversion. What is the inversion? According to this, Afghanistan, which is the worst performing country in country risk, the riskiest, appears with the highest value. So remember, risk is a barrier. We don't want risk. We don't like risk. So what I have to do is I have to turn this and invert that data. How do I make the inversion? I insert another one. Remember, the highest value for this should be 100. The smallest value should be 1. So what I do is I subtract from 101 the value that I have here. And that is going to make the inversion because 101 minus 1, 100, right? So the worse is going to become the better. 101 minus 100, 1. So I do that, and I am going to do exactly that for all of my data here. And this one, I'm going to paste here, and I'm going to say that this is inverted. So that I know that this is the one that I have to work with. And I'm going to give it a slightly darker color. That means that I did something else to that data. And I'm going to do this exactly the same here. I copy, I paste it, I scroll it down, I take this, I'm going to put it here, I'm going to call it inverted or adjusted or any word you want, okay? And then you give it a darker color, it already has a darker color, and I am going to do the same with this one. Hello. Now I'm going to calculate the country risk. Now, in the previous video, I was showing you how to calculate the adjusted value. I did this. I adjusted that value. I inverted it. Good. Now I want to calculate the country risk. Now, what is my country risk? I have my variables here. My sources I have organized into those that are discussing market size and those that are discussing country risk. Now, country risk I'm using red because it's a barrier, market size blue because it's attractiveness or demand. Remember, anything that is a barrier, you probably have to invert. Now, I go back here. So how do I calculate the country risk? I make a simple average. I make an average of the values that I have. No, not this one. Okay, good. I think there's one more that I am going to need, because I am working with, I didn't include this one here, so I'm going to include this one there. Good, that's my value for country risk. How I have no data here. Now, what do I do if I have calculated my country risk, as I have here, and I have calculated my market size, as I have calculated here? So what I do now is I want to give weights to my different sources. So I'm going to add here another that is going to say weight. Now, sorry, there you go. So now those weights, I'm not entirely sure that is correct. That makes sense. Good. Now I go back to Global Edge, for example, and I see a market potential index. The weight that they give for market size is 25%. The weight that they give for country risk is 7.5%. I'm going to work with that. I'm going to use a market size weight of 25%. I'm going to have a country risk rate of 7.5. Good. What does it mean here for the results? At the end, when I have my market size and my country risk and all of the other dimensions, I have to calculate my final ranking, my final value. Now, that final value, which I'm going to put here, and since I love yellow so much, I'm going to put it in yellow here. Now, my final value is the result of the matrix. And what I do is basically I'm going to take and make a weighted average. What is a weighted average? A weighted average is I'm going to make an addition. I'm going to take this value, for example, here, and I'm going to multiply it by 0.075. That way I am accounting for it being a value of 7.5%. And I'm going to add that to this value here that I have for market size, which is this one. And that value I am going to multiply by 0.25. And that it means that it accounts for 25%. And I have an initial result. Now, ideally, as you move and include more data and include more countries, more variables, and more dimensions, you're going to enlarge this final value until you have the country that is more attractive. In this exercise, one country that is appearing to be attractive is, for example, Australia with a very high number, or Belgium also has a very high number, or Brazil. It does make sense. Countries that have low value, for example, Azerbaijan or Afghanistan or Armenia. So it does make sense. Your matrix has to make sense. The data that you put in the matrix has to make sense. And then what you do is that you organize the ranking here and you show me which are the most attractive countries and which are the least attractive countries, guys. And that's it. Thank you.